This is Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide at irlonestar.com.
Hey, this is Dick from Lone Star Community Radio. We have a big announcement for Lone Star Community Radio and our listeners. We have partnered with another TV station. That's right, you'll be seeing Lone Star Community Radio content on KVQT, Channel 12 in the Houston area. Now is a great time to start a show or sponsor a show with Lone Star Community Radio. For more information on everything that is happening, visit us online at irlonestar.com or call the station at 936-647-3776 and leave a message. And we want to also wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into another edition of Jake from Sports Talk. I'm your host, Jake LaFleur. And it's great to have you in on this Wednesday. You may be listening to the show or live or on replay on Google Play, iTunes, and YouTube, any one of those three. And you may be wondering why I sound like a zombie on Prilosec right now. I'm okay. I'm not contagious, as Dick just asked me. I'm all good to go. I've got some allergies, the changing of the weather. I think people are saying things in the studio that aren't very nice. But nonetheless, I'm here. I'm manned up. I toughed it up. I'm in the studio. I'm getting through this show, and I'm glad to have you guys back in. And I know it sounds like I got the Hoover Dam lodged up my nose right now, but I promise I'm gonna be okay, and we'll bear it through this show. So, but yes, thanks for joining in on another edition of Jake from Sports Talk. And as I already mentioned, if you want to listen to the replay of this show, go and or if you want to check out the past shows too. I mean, if you're listening in for the first time, and you're like, does he always sound this ridiculous? You go listen to my past shows. Go see what I truly sound like. See what this show and what I am all about. So, but yeah, go to Google Play, iTunes, and YouTube to check out the replay. If you're ever coming through the Montgomery County area, the greater Montgomery County area, you can listen to the show on 104.5, 106.1, Conroe's FMs, and because we do broadcast from beautiful downtown Conroe, Texas, right off of Main Street. Or if you're ever out and about in the world, you can get the IR Lone Star app. You can listen on irlonestar.com. There's tons of ways to consume this show. We also do the replay of it on Our City TV, which is broadcasted in the greater Montgomery County area. The show, the replay version of it airs on Fridays at 7 p.m., if I'm not mistaken. Dick shaking his head, not listening to me, but he's still shaking his head. I don't know. He's in his own little world right now. I wouldn't mind getting him on maybe later in the fourth segment. We can talk about soccer and this Super League that apparently is going on or being talked about. I don't know what we may bring him in to see what's going on there. Help me out through this show. But all right, let's get things started. And man, oh man, we've got a ton to cover. But before we get into anything, I'd like to comment on what Fox Entertainment was running as a commercial starting last Wednesday and basically leading up all the way through Friday night. And it was, I'm sure you saw it with the T-Mobile pink and white kind of blaring in your face, was best weekend ever. And they were saying, between their college football games and the professional football on Sunday, and then the World Series, both Saturday and Sunday nights. And they were saying between all of that, it was going to be the best weekend ever. And I hate to be a victim of the moment, and I hate to overreact without letting enough time pass by. And who knows how much time is actually the correct amount of time to let pass before you can truly judge whether a sole weekend was the best weekend ever as far as sports is concerned. But I gotta say, with no thanks to Fox, I'm not even trying to brag about Fox here. They could have thrown out best weekend ever, and it could have been the worst weekend ever, and nobody would have cared either way. And just the fact that it was such an amazing weekend of sports, between probably like I really think one of the best football games that we saw between the Texans and the Seattle Seahawks this past weekend was just phenomenal. Talk about Penn State versus Ohio State and the clash that was. Notre Dame just staying on top, taking out NC State. Incredibly awesome weekend as far as football goes. And then you throw into the mix World Series. And the game that we saw Sunday night was just this fireworks show. It was a home run derby essentially between these two teams, and it was incredible to watch, and just to see the resiliency of both of those teams and to just never quit. Astros going down real early, 4 runs, fighting back, coming back to tie it up against arguably one of the best pitchers in the National League, if not in the history of the sport. And then to have him blow that lead, him get another 3-run lead, and then to blow that 3-run lead. I mean, it was, and then just everything between the bullpens and we'll get into the World Series full and more in depth as we, get along further in the show. But no, I just wanted, just to point out that Fox got lucky, because this truly was one of the best sports weekends we've had in a long time. And that's the beauty of this time of the year. I love the weather, and sometimes, it brings along diseases and colds and stuff like that, and allergy problems and all that good stuff. But the best time of the year, we got baseball playoffs, you got NFL there, you got college football, you got hockey starting, you got basketball going. I mean, you literally got the 4 major sports, and then plus we got soccer playoffs going with the Dynamo taking on the Timbers, Seattle Timbers. Thank you, Dick. I was going to get there. But yeah, and then the craziness. So like I said, we'll talk about the World Series, and then we got college football rankings coming out. First one's coming out yesterday, and man, what a shocker! And every LSU fan in the world has to be furious right now, and we'll dive into why. It's not because they're only ranked 16th. I'll tell you why they're going to be really furious from this rankings release. But then also we got Colin Kaepernick stuff coming back into the fold, and nothing new as far as his trial goes or anything like that. But man, the NFL having it so close to getting this court case potentially dropped. And it's all because of the Browns, and the NFL's got to hate the Browns right now. And then Roger Goodell, and his little war pending with the owners and Jerry Jones. We're going to get all into all of that. And yeah, we got a fun show ahead. I mean, like I said, there's just a ton of sports to talk about here. But as always, let's get started with our weekend in a wrap. Get it on. All right, let's begin with NFL trade deadline. That's right. We also had the NFL trade deadline yesterday. Crazy sports weekend and sports week since last Wednesday. So 2 big names get traded. Jimmy Garoppolo and Jay Ajayi both get traded yesterday, and for some pretty decent deals as far as what the Eagles had to give up for them and what the 49ers gave up for them. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo leaving New England as the backup of obviously Tom Brady, pretty boy Brady, and having they're now talking to Brian Hoyer about coming in and being his replacement and everything like that, and his backup. It doesn't matter. It just so happened that the 49ers our starting quarterback was Brian Hoyer for a little while too, which is really funny. But the fact that you're going to have Garoppolo go for a second-round pick, and nobody really knows what he's worth. And I mean, it's the cookie cutter thing that they've done in New England. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, they got rid of at the end of the year for 3 picks, second round, third round, and I think it was a 6th round as well. Sent him over to a in-need team in Minnesota, and he's not even playing for him anymore. So it's like, where did this? They're cooking, and you just don't know. And so you got to commend that front office and for everything they do. And not that I'm saying Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be bad or anything, but just so much uncertainty surrounds him. And for a 2nd and a 4th round pick, it's kind of like, wow. It seems like a lot to give up to him, especially when you look at the Jay Ajayi trade. Jay Ajayi went to Philadelphia from the Miami Dolphins for a 4th round pick. Jay Ajayi has been a solid running back in his career, and pairing him up with Blunt in Philadelphia, that's going to be a stout team. And it really takes the Eagles from a team that can go deep in the playoffs to a team that can win the playoffs this year. So, win the Super Bowl this year. So that's a big, big trade there. And then you got to look at the biggest loser from this past weekend, Martavis Bryant, or from the trade deadline, sorry. Martavis Bryant still remains in Pittsburgh. No one showed any interest in picking him up, even though the Steelers were shopping him. And to make it even worse, last week, Juju Smith went off, tore it up on the field, looked like a viable replacement for Mr. Bryant. So not a great weekend, not a great trade deadline for Martavius there. And then Kelvin Benjamin goes to Buffalo, which is not a huge deal because Kelvin Benjamin looks like with the injuries and everything could be washed up and could be a waste of a huge talent just due to, can't stay healthy, which is sad to hear. Another football news, Zeke's suspension. Ezekiel Elliott finally is going to serve his 6-game suspension. Barring before Sunday any last-second appeals, I was reading about it and they were saying that, yeah, there's like one trick he can still pull, but it's a long shot and the paperwork behind it may not get done in time. And yeah, it's a nightmare and a mess. I hope Zeke just serves this because after going through 3 court systems, the third court ruled in favor of the NFL and said, yeah, no, this is it. Late Monday night, they sent out not the subpoena, but basically the ruling, I guess. I don't know I'm not a lawyer, but and then get over some basketball news. Cleveland Cavaliers are looking like dog doo-doo, and the whining J.R. Smith, he's losing his starting role. Rose is already hurt. You got Dwayne Wade showing his age, and LeBron James is just sitting there like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you guys gave me a platter of just dog doo-doo, and I'm supposed to make this into gold? Like, come on. So I don't want to, you don't ever want to jump at the gun too quickly with the Cavaliers and their whole situation and whatnot, because I feel like they do this every year. They can limp in as an 8 seed and still win that East. You do have LeBron James, and as long as you have him, the best team 95% of the time will win a series in the NBA. That's just how it goes. So I'm not concerned about them making the playoffs, or is this really the end of LeBron James? Is he going down? Don't go down that rabbit hole, people. Just, stay strong in the fact that LeBron James is still the best player in the world, and they will find a way to make it to the championship. All right, you're listening to 104.5, 106.1, and worldwide on irlonestar.com to Jake from Sports Talk. We are going to go to our break, and that was the wrong bumper music. Thank you, Dick. You screwed that one up. Nice. Playing the wrong bumper music. All right, we're going to go to break here in a second. When we come back, we're going to talk some World Series, and I'm going to tell you who I think, whether my opinion has changed on who I think is going to win the World Series tonight or not. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio, broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Hey, Montgomery County, it's me, C.C. Holmes. And I would personally like to take this time to invite you, that's right, you, to join me every Saturday and Sunday from 3 until 7 p.m. where I will bring you the very best of the smooth jazz, classic jazz, and indeed, yes, the soulful sounds of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So come along and get jazzy with me. That's right, jazzy. Right here, of course, on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM, or worldwide at irlonestar.com.
Welcome back to Jake from Sports Talk here on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5, 106.1, and worldwide on irlonestar.com. I'm giving Dick a lot of crap over here for messing up on my bumper music, but he's a really great boss, and I really enjoy working for him. So, shout out to him. He's got two great shows on here, and one I'm featured on quite a bit is Mornings with Lone Star. It's Dick and Skippy in the morning, and they allow me to come and join and be a part of them. Great show. Check that out on irlonestar.com, as well as his ticket stub. That's a fun. If you're a big movie buff, that's a fun one to listen to as well. And I partake in it a little bit. They know more about movies than I do. So, but yeah, you are listening to Jake from Sports Talk, giving my wonderful boss some plugs there. But welcome back in. Glad to have you in as always every Wednesday here on 104.5, 106.1 and worldwide on irlonestar.com. And we are going to talk some World Series. So looking at what we saw from this past weekend, the series that we had going on with the 3 days here in Houston, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Astros losing that Friday game, that was killer. That really, really hurt. Or sorry, not Friday game, Saturday game. That Saturday game really, really hurt them. And I really thought that they needed to win at home in 5 games if they were going to take this series at the start of the series. And at the start of the series, I picked the Dodgers to win in 7. So we go back now, last night, to L.A. We play Game 6 there. We've got Verlander on the mound. And I said, if they're going to win this series, they've got to win it that night. They've got to win it last night with Verlander on the mound. Same with Kershaw. Same with sending Kershaw out of the mound in Game 5. You have to, if you're a Dodger, you have to win that game because your ace is on the mound. Astros, you got Verlander on the mound. You have to win that game. And I know that a lot of people would argue that Keuchel is the ace for the Astros. Yada yada yada. I understand all that argument, but that's beyond the point. That's beside the point and everything like that. You've got your best pitcher who's been 9-0 since joining you, who's been 3-0 in the playoffs, and you can't get him the runs he needs. I mean, the man gave up 3 runs. He's given up and he's given up 5 hits and 5 runs in just a little over 13 innings pitched in this World Series. I mean, he's pitched fabulous for you guys, and you can't get him the most potent offense in all of baseball this year. You can't get him 5 runs at least give the man a fighting chance to win. Granted, with all that said, the pitching from Rich Hill was really good last night. The pitching from the Dodgers bullpen was really good last night. The closer, Jansen. I was trying to make him a Scarlett Johansson. Jansen was fabulous last night. And that's bad news for the Dodgers. The Dodgers bullpen has been really tired, and they benefited from a night off. But looking at the Game 1, they were really great, really great. Game 2, no night off, they were tired. They were tired, and they gave up a lot of those runs in Game 2. Game 3, day off, they looked good. Now, they unfortunately had to pitch a lot more than they were expecting because Yu Darvish did not go deep into that game. So then you're looking at the factor of nutrition for Game 5 and for Games 4 and 5. So 4, they toughed it out, and it was a great starting pitching effort to where they didn't have to work as hard or as long. But then come Game 6, they were done. They were tired. They needed a night off. And they got that night off, and that's why they looked really good last night. But looking at them having to go back-to-back nights, like what they had to do from 5 to 6 or from 1 to 2, it smells good for the Astros. It looks good for the Astros because that bullpen's probably going to be tired. If they can get to Darvish early, get him out of the game, and make the Dodgers pitch the full kitchen sink, then I think they've got a fighting chance. But if they let Darvish go out there and battle with McCullers, because I think McCullers, we saw it in Game 7 against the Yankees. He pitched a wonderful Game 7 game to get the Astros to the World Series. We saw it in Game 3. We saw him pitch a wonderful game against Yu Darvish. So I think that the Astros have, probably if you look at percentage of winning, had the higher percentage of chance to win tonight. The only thing is, it's a home field game for the Dodgers, and the Astros have struggled on the road this playoffs. If they can come around and they can get everything together, I think they have a true chance to win this World Series. Now, what this World Series means for these two cities is very different. And I'm not saying that the Astros deserve to win it more because of Harvey, but the Astros players are fighting for Harvey, and they're fighting to bring a championship to the city that was so heartbroken and so devastated from a storm that sat on top of their city for 5 days while they were out of town, while they had family members, their wives, their children here back in Houston, and they couldn't do a thing about it because they couldn't get back. And so I think you're going to see more heart and effort out of the Astros tonight, which I know is hard to say for the Dodgers fans and for the Dodgers players. It's like, oh, well, just because we didn't have a catastrophe hit us, we're not going to try. No, I get it. I get it, but it's different. You run at 110% Dodgers, but there's a little extra adrenaline rush. I'm still going to stick and pick the Dodgers to win tonight. I think Dodgers take the series in 7, but I have a hunch that maybe the Astros put it all together tonight and take the win there. So it's kind of an interesting tale of two sides. And it's going to depend on Turner too. I think if the Dodgers want a chance to win this, I think it's going to really depend on Turner. And if Turner can get that bat going, if Puig can get that bat going. I mean, Yasiel has been rather quiet. I know he's had 2 home runs in this series, but that's been quiet when you look at his performance over the entirety of the playoffs. That's been really quiet, and I think that he's got a game on he's on the heels of a big win tonight. So we'll have to stay tuned. It's going to be an awesome Game 7. I think you're going to see lots of emotion. I don't think it's going to be quite as a high-scoring game as Game 5. I think it's going to be around total 10 runs scored. I think the first team to 5 or 6 maybe wins this one, but expect a hard-fought and exciting game. This has truly been one of the best. This is probably the best World Series. It's hard for me to say that as a Red Sox fan that 2004 wasn't a better World Series just to see. But that from a personal thing aside, and Cubs will be saying the same thing here too. They'll be saying that last year's was the best World Series ever, and there's a personal bias there because of the history of the Red Sox and the history of the Cubs. And the Cubs, or the Red Sox first World Series in 96 years was a 4-game straight sweep. But the Cubs was a 7-game battle, and it was awesome. And it was one of those things that was, once in a lifetime sort of, you got to witness that sort of event and that sort of moment. And I think that's what the Astros are really fighting for right now. And so, I think, I really hope, from deep down, bottom of my heart, I really hope the Astros get the win tonight. I don't know. It's hard to pick the Astros, and this series has been so unpredictable. How do you, there's no way you could have seen Verlander getting 0 wins in the World Series, and going 13-3 with 5 runs on 5 hits. There's no way you could have predicted. You couldn't have predicted Kershaw blowing 2 3-run leads in Game 5. So to sit here and say that I've got the magic 8 ball, I know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I hope, for the sake of the Astros and the fans and the city of Houston, I hope they win it. And sorry, Dodgers fans, I just happen to live in Houston, and that's why I hope for that. So I wish you the best of luck tonight, Dodgers. And I kind of hope you win too, because I picked you in 7 from the get-go. So, I want to be right. Dick's not very happy with me right now. He's making the Jack in the Box finger at me right now. It looks rather funny. Thanks, Dick. Love you too. All right, we are going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to talk NFL, and we're going to talk about Roger Goodell and the war that he is waging against Jerry Jones and the NFL and everything that's surrounding and what it has to do with Colin Kaepernick and how this story just never seems to leave the headlines. Kind of like the story of Trump never seems to leave the headlines. So, all right, we'll be right back. You are listening to Jake from Sports Talk. Don't go anywhere.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Hey guys, I'm Joey Savage.
Corey DLG.
We are Nerd Thug Radio. Catch us every Monday from 1 to 3 and check out our website, nerdthugradio.com.
We like to talk about quilting, horseback riding, and baking quiche.
Actually, we don't, but we do like talking nerdy to you.
That's right. Every Monday from 1 to 3 p.m., hashtag talking nerdy to you.
Welcome back to Jake from Sports Talk here on irlonestar.com or on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, where we bring you the best of your local talk, weather, traffic, and music to the greater Montgomery County area. Glad to have you all back in. Thanks for joining in. And if you're listening live, it is Wednesday, and you can listen live every Wednesday from 1 to 2 on all of those platforms and formats. And if you are listening on a replay version, I appreciate you listening on the replay version as well. I would love to get the social media following up a little bit. And mentioning that social media following, I got a message on Facebook from a Mike Harisco, and he wanted to know when I was going to talk A&M LSU football. And I told, talking about the matchup, obviously the Saturday that follows Thanksgiving. And it's the time they play every year and everything like that. And so, Mike, I'm sorry I haven't gotten around to responding to you on Facebook, but I know that you are an avid listener of this show. So when you hear this episode, this will answer your question. You can listen to Jake from Sports Talk that Wednesday. It'll be Wednesday. Let's see. It'll be the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. Wednesday the 22nd here on Lone Star Community Radio. And that will be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and the Wednesday before the Saturday matchup between LSU and A&M. And we will talk about that. But you did ask a specific question whether I thought this was going to be a running game or a passing game. Well, if you've seen LSU do anything on offense this year, it has always started with their running game. So to answer that quick question, a quick snippet there, it'll be a running game for the LSU side of the ball. And I really think that you're going to have to see the offense, the aerial attack of the A&M offense show up for that game. The secondary of LSU is young and just lacks the experience big time. So their front seven is still really strong, and you're not going to, A&M, I shouldn't say anybody, but A&M specifically is not going to outpower that front seven of LSU for 4 quarters. So they're going to have to get the offensive game going for their side. But on the LSU side of the ball, definitely going to be a ground game because that is their mantra, and that's how they succeed. So, speaking of that, and I know we're going to dive, I know we said we were going to talk NFL first, but I want to come back with NFL in the 4th segment because I want to end my show on that. Because there's a comical factor to it. I usually like to say the funny side of things for that 4th segment, stay a little serious here in the middle, But so we're going to dive into some college football because we had the rankings come out last night. The first college football rankings of the year came out and they shocked the world. And I said in the intro, in the opening segment, I said, there's going to be a lot of LSU fans waking up really mad this morning, really upset with the college football committee. And the reason being is because it's Bama week for LSU fans. LSU plays Bama this Saturday. It's a big matchup, big rivalry. These two teams, notably with the whole Nick Saban thing, and the first time Saban came back to LSU, they had a huge, and played in Baton Rouge. They had a huge chant of, F you Saban, and it was made it on to national television. It was clearly audible through your television speakers, and they have a famous song in which they sing, and it implies doing something inappropriate to a tiger. So it's one of those things where these two teams just really don't like each other. They have a lot of respect for each other because they know how good the other teams are, the other team that they're facing is, but they really just don't like each other. And so this Saturday, that rivalry gets renewed, as it does every year. And the reason why LSU fans are upset with the committee is not because of where they personally got ranked, but it was where Alabama got ranked. Alabama got pushed to second behind Georgia. And I got to imagine that there are some Alabama fans out there that are not happy about that at all, because that's kind of a disrespect, right? Hey, we were in the national championship last year. We are undefeated. We should be number one right now. But if you take a step back and you take those Alabama shirts off and you look at the full body of the work of the season and who Alabama has played, Florida State, game one, they take out Florida State's starting quarterback, and Florida State hasn't been the same since. So it's that's not that impressive of a win. And outside of that, who else have they taken on? I mean, their toughest opponent so far up to this point has been A&M. A&M has played the best against them. And so I don't think that the committee necessarily got this wrong. You know what I mean? It's not one of those things where, they're just, jealous because they're not Alabama fans, I guess would be the way to put it. But no, I think if you look at Georgia's body of work, who Georgia has beaten, and then shockingly, Notre Dame getting up there at number 3. Now, Notre Dame's only loss was to said Georgia, and it was at home, so Georgia got a great, tough road win at Notre Dame. But this is kind of, and then they got Clemson at 4, which there's no shock there. But this is kind of out of character for the committee. I feel like they've been kind of cookie cutter when they release these first ones, where it's, okay, let's go with the easy picks. Let's not make any controversy. Let's not make any waves yet. But they made some waves here on this very first release of the college football rankings. To put Georgia ahead of Alabama was kind of a slap in Alabama's face, but Nick Saban came out and said, hey, look, it's not a big deal. It's just rankings, and it's not the end of the year yet, so what does it really matter? These rankings don't mean anything because they don't mean anything, you know what I mean? But to say that players don't pay attention to them, I disagree with that. I think your players are going to see this, Nick, and I think your players are going to be really fired up, and they're going to come out and put a whoop down on LSU. Now, they're at home, which is great for Alabama's sake, right? Because, who likes to play on the road? But they're going to put a big butt whooping on LSU this weekend. That's my prediction. And it's all because of these rankings. I think this would have been a closer game prior to these rankings coming out. But now that these rankings are out, no, forget it. Alabama's they have to prove to the world, their players have to prove to the world that number 2 ranking behind Georgia is wrong. Now, let's talk about personal matchups. If I have Alabama playing against Georgia this weekend, who's going to win that game? You're telling me that you think Georgia, with the firepower that surprise offense has had for Alabama, and I don't know what Nick Saban does to his quarterbacks, but there's something about it during the offseason that he can turn him into something at the college level. Now, developing them for the pros, not as much. He hasn't had a lot of QBs that have had success in the pros. They're very much game managers. But at the college level, they outperform every expectation. And that offense has looked like the Derrick Henry offense that they had 4 years ago, which was just a punishing offense. But the defensive side of the ball is it's Alabama defense. So I just can't imagine Georgia lining up this Saturday head-to-head with Alabama and them beating Alabama. And they haven't done it. I mean, Mark Richt literally has been trying to do it for the last 10 years at Georgia. And that's now why he is in Miami, barely winning games against, SMU or whoever they played this past weekend, because they seem to never, I think it was, I forget who they were playing now. It doesn't matter, but you get my point. You get where I'm going with that analogy. So I really don't think that Alabama would lose to Georgia, but for some reason the committee, and again, rightfully so, the committee did it, and I know why the committee did it. The committee did it because of body of work, and they were actually looking at the games. So kudos to the committee for being realistic. Kudos for the committee going outside the box. And the Notre Dame thing, I didn't even get to talk about Notre Dame. I love that Notre Dame's in the top 4. My dad is an Irish fan. He hates it because he doesn't want them to be like, oh, well, we're number 3 and kind of fall off, because Notre Dame doesn't have an easy schedule going ahead. Clemson making 4. Not a shocker just because of who they were last year, but they're not that same team this year. And I think that's the only reason why they're in that top 4. It's because of the fact that they won it last year. Not to take anything away, but they've had a lot of injuries, and they're just not the same. They're still a really good team, but they're just not the same. Wisconsin, looking at the body of work, undefeated at this point, but looking at the body of the work coming out of that side of the division, not the strongest of schedules, but I think they're a strong team, and I think they're a team to fear. And if you go into a game against them and you undermine them or you underestimate them, I don't think so. They'll take you out. And I think they'll make it undefeated all the way up to the Big Ten championship, and you'll see them face Ohio State or whomever comes out of the East, Big Ten East. But I wouldn't be shocked if Wisconsin ends up going undefeated throughout this entire year. But if they do, that puts a very interesting question mark on who's going to make it in over an undefeated Big Ten Wisconsin team. If that so happens. Now, if Ohio State beats Wisconsin, Wisconsin's out of the picture, they're out of the question. But then does a one-loss Ohio State get in over a one-loss Notre Dame? And that's one of those things we're going to have to see how it plays out and everything like that. And I don't want to play fortune teller, I don't want to play guesser or anything like that. But, it's going to be a fun thing, an interesting thing to watch as we go on throughout the remainder of the season, and basically to see every Tuesday what this committee, ballsy first pick, ballsy first weekend, what this committee is going to do going on from here on out. But that's Dick turning up the music on me. We are wrapping up this segment. When we come back for our fourth and final segment, we will talk NFL and Roger Goodell, as I promised beforehand, and how the Browns just cost Colin Kaepernick a job. You're listening to 104.5, 106.1, and worldwide on irlonestar.com. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio, broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Tom, lele, lulu, malang, tom,
Welcome back to Jake from Sports Talk. Glad to have you all back in. Here on 104.5, 106.1, worldwide on LoneStar.com. I think my station manager, Dick, finally wants to get off his lazy butt and do something for once. Are you going to hop in on this Roger Goodell talk?
Yeah.
Yeah? Why? Why? What intrigues you about the Goodell storyline?
Your input.
Oh, my input. Oh, all right. Well, okay. Then let's give a quick background and a quick storyline of what exactly is going on with this whole situation and everything like that. So Roger Goodell had a meeting with some owners a few weeks back. We talked about it on the air. We said, all right, they had about 11 of the owners there and a bunch of the player reps talking about, what they wanted out of this kneeling thing, what they wanted out of all this protesting and whatnot. And Goodell, since that meeting, has come out full in favor of the players and everything like that. And he was, he thought, I truly think he thinks that it's the right way to handle this whole situation. And now the owners have responded and said, "Oh, no. We're revoking that extension. We're putting that on hold. That 5-year extension we signed to give you an extra 5 years, and I think it starts in 2019. Yeah, no. That's now on hold." And so they're basically revoking his future earnings until further notice. And so it's just really interesting, and it's all being led by Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones is saying, hey, look, this is not your league. This is my league. This is our owners' league. We put you as the dummy to take the hits, to take the falls. And you can't have an opinion one way or the other. And especially not if your opinion disagrees with us. So it's just really interesting to see how all this is playing out. You want to chime in?
I'm just listening. I told you I like your input.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just really interesting to see how all this plays out. And I want to see going forward what Goodell does here with this. Because does he ultimately flip-flop? Does he go back and does he say, well, no, okay, if that's the case, if you're not going to – because the NFL the owners are really getting ready to pay him so much money that they wanted to hide it again. They wanted to take his earnings and make it take away the tax exemption thing, whatever, and so that way his yearly income would be hidden again. And they did it because they wanted to pay him because he was doing such a good job and being the dummy that everybody could just throw poop at, and he's no longer doing that, right? And he's now stepping out and speaking out in favor of the players. And so I want to see what his next move is. I mean, this is really a chess match with the owners. So,
well, in the end, what do you think the owners want?
The owners want the players to do what they say, and that's the end of it.
And what are they saying that they're not doing now? Well,
no, they don't want the players to take the knee. They don't want them to protest during the national anthem because it takes away. They believe it takes away from their ratings, from television ratings, thus hurting them and financially. And so with that in mind, they want the players to stand for the national anthem and to obey, by their rules. And
is that a rule?
Well, no, it's a suggestion in the rule book. So there's that. I mean, we've talked about it. The way the rule is stated, it's you should stand for the national anthem. You should put your hand over your heart. You should, I think it's hold your helmet under your right or your left arm. And the should factor is what does it, which is what allows them to not.
But don't they also have some type of public interactive clause in their contract? Like they can't go on social media and say some stuff.
I think they're.
Do they have anything like that?
I don't think they're restricted from any social media as far as they can go on and do what they want, say what they want. But they know that there's ramifications that if it looks bad upon the team, that the team could ultimately fine them for it.
I mean, what happens if a player goes on social media and starts telling that our head coach is, doing something wrong or something along those lines, like, either making fun of him or doing something inappropriate?
But that's happened before, and it's happened actually against Jerry.
I believe that. And
Jerry is such a ballsy man. There was a report that came out. It was an article written by if you get a chance to go read it. And I can't remember the reporter's name, but it basically let the reporter into Jerry's world, into Jerry's own house on a casual Thursday night, and Jerry said, "Come on, man, come see how I live." Jerry had women there. Jerry had unlimited booze. I mean, it was like going to Hughes Mansion, and And the guy, Jerry, just doesn't care because he knows he's that powerful. He knows that nobody's going to be able to touch him. And so he understands that he has that power in the NFL, and that if he doesn't want Goodell there, Goodell will not be there. Because you've got other owners that are right there, same kind of lifestyle, same kind of power, and they know they can't be touched either. And they're on Jerry's side. And so they'll control, and that's why I'm very interested in seeing how Goodell, what his next move is. Whether he comes out and he says, yeah, okay, I can't go, because Kaepernick was faced with the same thing, right? Kaepernick was basically faced with, I knee and I stand for what I believe in, or I stand and make my money. So it'll be interesting. We saw what he chose, and we see what he's going through now. So it'll be interesting to see what Goodell goes through. So,
well, I imagine they're not going to have really any discussion about it because we're hitting the end of the season, and then also, I mean, the playoffs. I think it's just going to be something that
they're going to try to
marketing wise. There's like, hey, let's just wait till the end of the season, and then do when we're out mid-season, like when we're doing in between seasons. That's when we'll kind of figure this out.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to put it off as long as they possibly can. But then you always get little twists and turns in it, like the
leaked stuff and the Texans owner saying
calling them prisoners. So and you had Texans players saying, yeah, I'm basically willing to sit out and not collect a paycheck because I don't want to play for Bob McNair. And to me that's over. You're being a 3-year-old baby who's crying about spilled milk in this situation. I want milk and I'm not getting it because I spilt it. Guys, in my opinion, I don't think he meant it that way. And even if he did mean it that way, you don't play for him. Let's be honest. Yes, he's the one that pays you, but at the end of the day, you're playing for the guy next to you. You're playing for your coach. You're playing to ultimately represent that team, that logo. And I understand he also represents it. But did people know what Bob McNair looked like prior to this? How many people knew Bob McNair actually owned the Texans? Outside of Houston, probably less than 20% of America. And so that's my point. Bob McNair is not a representation of the Texans.
Well, what happens if Jerry Jones said it?
Jerry Jones is different because Jerry Jones makes himself known. Bob McNair never makes himself known. And Bob McNair, come on. I mean, he's a Texan of old. I mean, he's had tons.
He technically brought football back to Houston.
I don't think
how important is football to the city of Houston?
That's true. Not that important. It's lower down on the list, I guess, but I don't know.
Oh, if they actually get good, I think it changes.
Yeah, and
look what's happening in soccer and MLS. Their owners getting yelled at the playoff games, they're saying "F you" basically to them, and they don't want to move, but that doesn't mean financially if that's a smart choice.
Yeah, and what the Dynamo did is and you've talked about it before, is that they embraced their Hispanic heritage and their Latino heritage, and they said, we're going to go all out on that. Maybe the Texans should do the same thing. Maybe they should just go all out on the African American and the black community.
Well, I mean, I don't know how they would. I mean, the Dynamo, that's the majority of their fan base, and I think they recognize that, especially with the coaching staff and things like that. But
yeah, but if you went with the majority of the fan base of Texans, it would
you get a Mod Podge of like everything. I mean, if you've ever been to the Gridiron section, you're going to be in trouble.
It would be nuts.
I mean, I encourage everyone over the age of 18 to go check out the Gridiron section of the NRG
definitely
Stadium.
Over the age of 18. Yeah, we don't want any.
I didn't know that place existed until I went up there, and
it's great.
It's insane. But
and the NFL almost caught a break here this past week or yesterday with the trade deadline, and this is by far one of the funniest things I've heard of it.
I know you mentioned it, but I think that's fake news, man.
No, it's not.
I think it's fake news. I would look it up.
I
started reading more about it, and now it's like he said, she said kind of situation. And
well, yeah, because the Browns don't want to look like idiots who didn't turn in the paperwork.
So
I saw a report of it. Well, okay, then let's put it this way: it's being reported that AJ McCarron was supposed to be traded from the Cincinnati Bengals to the Cleveland Browns, and apparently the Cincinnati Bengals put in their paperwork, and they sent it off to the NFL and had everything in place, but the Browns forgot to send the appropriate paperwork, and so thus the trade deal didn't go through, and the Bengals were reportedly going to sign Colin Kaepernick as the backup quarterback behind Andy Dalton. So that's what's being reported right now. I've heard it from multiple sources, but multiple sources could be wrong, and it could be fake news, and those sources just were running with what they were hearing without verifying anything, which I'm recklessly doing right now too. But I'm just assuming that it's true because I heard it from multiple sources and two sources in which I really trust.
Well, the deadline thing, probably one of the most famous ones recently happened in soccer with Manchester United, Real Madrid, where the fax machine wasn't working. That was the official excuse.
Well, yeah, and there's been a couple of those within the past 5 or 10. Why are we still using fax machines, people? Like, we live in the 21st century. Fax machines are null and void. Like, they're old technology. So, anyways, it was really funny if this is true and they were actually going to bring in Colin Kaepernick and it got stopped because the Browns are that incompetent of a franchise and organization. That would be really funny.
And now, in your opinion, how important are these trade deadlines? Because in certain sports, there are some penalties. So, like, you can still complete the deadline, but you have to pay a penalty per, like, how late it was.
Case in point, Justin Verlander. Like, the Astros had to pay a fee to get him after the quote-unquote official trade deadline.
Because they get started with, like, a letter of intent. And that kind of gives you the timestamp. Oh, this is when we intend to try to propose this trade.
Yeah, and I think you have 30 days from that letter of intent to get it done. So,
but the Browns just didn't.
The Texans are not the Texans. Sorry, the NFL as a whole. Their trade deadline's garbage compared to like the NBA's is way more important. The baseball's is way more important. But no, yeah, I don't know how the MLS. What their format and how that all works, but yeah, definitely
they do some real shady stuff.
Well, the NFL, I'm sure they do. It's a soccer thing.
No, they have a super draft in the middle of I think it's in the middle of the season. And basically, if you're a veteran, you have your contract. You're a veteran, like that's how they label you on the team. You could be picked by the owner or by the team manager to be on the super draft, and so you basically have no choice to leave.
You have to stay no matter what?
Well, no, you have to leave. Like, you have no choice but leave. And it happened at the Dynamo. They lost Bobby Boswell, one of the best defenders in the league. And unfortunately, with the super draft, if another team wants them, they'll pay the contract and they'll pay the fee. But it kind of leaves the player at its mercy of like the super draft, basically.
All right, we got 2 minutes before we got to go.
Okay.
I want real quick Super League in Europe. Soccer-wise.
Yeah, Europe is talking about doing a Super League, not their standard format of what people might know as Champions League. Basically, what they're going to do is you watch the Premier League, you watch the MLS. Basically, they're going to try to do a point system just like that, but with all the super teams in Europe.
That sounds awesome.
It sounds extremely exciting, but the issue is, like, is there going to be a relegation? What about the other teams that are small teams?
Can they make it up to that level?
Like, yeah, what are we going to do with the Premier League? Because imagine a Premier League without Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Tottenham, like basically the top 6 teams.
Well, you make it like the current system that's in place where you got the 3 leagues and you move up and you move down.
The pyramid system. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea just because the money is so
the super teams just facing off.
Well, it's good. It's great for the fan, but it might not be good for the economy of soccer. Because of how much money those teams depend on the TV revenue, and also how it's being distributed. I mean, like in the past 2 to 3 years, Italy and Spain had to renegotiate their TV revenue because Barcelona and Real Madrid were making like 60 to 70% of all TV revenue out of the league. So that means out of the 18 teams, 2 teams were getting 60% of the money. So it kind of gives you how unbalanced everything is. But I think it's also it'll work for the rich people, of course. In the end, it's always about the owners and all that kind of stuff.
The rich will get richer.
But also, I mean, it depends on what you want to watch. I think here, and we're talking about sports, and I mean, MLS has a place, but I also think soccer itself is the new upcoming sport for the United States. But it's not our soccer; it's foreign soccer.
Yeah.
Because now these TV rights are being purchased for long extended contracts. NBC's in their second year with the Premier League, and they're doing well.
Yeah, we'll see what the MLS becomes if it remains a minor league for them. Or
yeah, I mean, my guess is going to be a minor league. If I'm going to watch soccer, it's like watching Pee Wee football and real football and NFL. Like, it's that big of a difference in talent and everything like that, unfortunately. So
yeah, well, alrighty. Well, thanks for joining in. Thanks for bringing me some soccer talk. I appreciate it. We're going to wrap it up here, guys. I hope you enjoy the week. Go Tigers. Beat Bama. That's not going to happen, but I can dream and wish and hope. But, yeah, thanks for joining us in. Again, you can catch every show live every Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. or the replays on irlonestar.com, YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, and Our City TV. Check them out on the app as well, irlonestar.com app. We will see you back and better next Wednesday. Hopefully I will not be as under the weather as I am today. Bye, guys.
Thanks for checking out this podcast of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. If you enjoyed this recording, make sure to check out our past shows online at irlonestar.com or their respective video or podcast formats on YouTube, Google Play, or iTunes. If you have any questions regarding the show, either it being about sponsorships or questions for the host, contact the station manager at dick@irlonestar.com or call the station at 936-647-3776. This show was recorded in downtown Conroe, Texas at the Lone Star Community Radio Studios, and Lone Star Community Radio reserves all rights to this recording and images.